Hello people, I am Rajesh Kachwe, Chief Business Officer, Student Lending Advanced Financial Services. Meet Damini Mahajan, co-founder and CEO, We Make Scholars. Together we are committed to help you plan, navigate your journey to study abroad. Damini herself has been through a journey of pursuing her higher academic aspirations abroad. Let's understand from her experiences and learn from it. So let's dive right into the episode of Expert Speak. Pave your path to make your mark. So Damini, tell our viewers about the first things that you did when you decided to study abroad, and how did you navigate the journey of your study abroad?
Thanks Rajesh for the introduction. So before I get to the details, I want to tell my viewers briefly about my background. So I went to study abroad in 2012, and when I came back to India, I got a 100% scholarship for my master's. So when I came back to India, I wanted to help people with their funding aspect, from scholarships to other forms of finances, and that's how We Make Scholars was born. So Rajesh, coming back to your question, from the idea of deciding to study abroad to actually landing there, it was hell lot of work. So I'm actually from Jammu, as you know. So a decade ago, almost 2012, when I went, there was barely anyone from Jammu who was even thinking of going abroad. You won't believe we didn't even had an IELTS center in Jammu, so I had to go to Punjab to even write IELTS. So back then it was very difficult, and so many steps when I was thinking of studying abroad. So I started with writing my tests. I wrote IELTS, TOEFL because it was required for the destinations which I was planning. So I was actually looking for Germany and UK. So I wrote my test. Parallelly, I was shortlisting scholarships and applying for those in the order of deadline. So I started about 10 months before the intake start date. And parallelly to test and scholarships, I was also applying to universities. So that was like the whole steps which I was doing simultaneously. And for the purpose of visa, I also went to a consultancy in the end, because visa is a very scary thing. I didn't want to do it all by myself.
Whoa, indeed an inspiring journey, and personally to tell you, I have taken a lot of insights out of this, and I think this will help our viewers to understand, mainly the ones who are coming from tier 2, tier 3 locations, how somebody where there is no IELTS center and all can also look at finding his or her academic journey abroad. So tell us, Damini, what was your family's reaction? Were they like, ye kahan se aaya, ye kabhi bataya nahi? Did you have to convince them, or they were cool about it?
Yes, it was definitely, when they came to know that I was thinking of something like that, they were completely in shock, because I was actually throughout my BTech, I was studying for my GATE exam, and I wanted to get into an IIT, and I actually worked hard for it, and I got also a good score, and I was definitely getting into IIT Kanpur or Kharagpur based on my GATE score. But then suddenly I came up with that I'm going abroad, and they were it went through all stages. They were initially shocked, and then it was denial that nay, we are not letting you go, and then it was asking the family pandit and asking cousins who are abroad that whether it's a good idea to go abroad. And then finally they agreed, and then they started supporting me with all the processes like packing, shopping, everything. So actually my mother always, she wanted me to study abroad, because my education meant that I have 2 younger brothers, so even my education meant that even they would have a good path, so which eventually happened. So I helped my youngest brother to start his undergrad in Canada. So because I went abroad, I could inspire him to do that. So it definitely helped. But family, initially it was very shocked, but eventually they agreed to it.
So some points to note, and I'm pretty sure my daughters will soon come to me with these kind of questions.
Rajesh, you are an expert in the education financing domain. To begin with, tell us why a student should look for an education loan instead of self-funding their education.
Now, the student loan is the best option to fund your higher education, be it education abroad or in India, but it gives you a lot of benefit and a lot of ease. There are various types of loan available. One can take a collateral based loan, one can take a non-collateral based. Obviously in a collateral based loan you have to give some kind of a collateral. These days, the students are looking to fund their own education. They say, why to burden their parents and become a Atmanirbhar. So many students say, okay, fine, we will take loan on our name and we repay it, because we provide something called moratorium, wherein during the study period you don't have to pay anything. You just pay a simple installment of say 2,000-3,000 rupees, and the rest of the EMI starts once you complete the course. We also give 6 to 8 months of grace period to student to find a good job. Once they get a job, they start repaying it. So another benefit of taking student loan is it covers the holistic cost of education. It's not only the tuition fee, it covers your living expenses, it covers your travel, it covers your all other miscellaneous expenses like computer, like laptops, books, library fees and all. So you are getting everything funded for your education. You don't have to bother about anything. So for example, sometimes a student gets an admission, though he can manage the fees towards the institution, but flying abroad is also a costly affair. Buying books, buying laptops, also a costly affair. So our loan covers entire cost of education, from say traveling abroad, from ticketing, from insurance, from everything to your tuition fee. Also, Damini, one should not block his or her family savings, because you don't know when the emergency will come up. You all have gone through with the COVID situation a couple of years back. So all the businesses, shops, and a lot of things were closed. People struggle to manage their expenses. So if you have good savings, you could survive that kind of a period. And then if you have an option of funding or option of some provider providing you finance and all, ideally you should go for that, because then you are not blocking your own savings. So you will agree with me, the three major considerations when it comes to going abroad, student always have is, one is the admission, second is the visa, he or she should get visa, and third is the finance. And you'll agree with me that the finance is where we both are helping these students to fulfill their dreams. Another reason why I say one should go for finance is, for example, if somebody's got an admission into a top rated institute, the fees is upward of say 60-70 lakhs, and his parents are earning only 25,000-30,000 rupees. No one will give them a loan of more than a lakh in a normal scenario. But here, because we are focused on student and we believe in students' earning potential and capacity post completion of the course, we take that call and say, okay, fine, student is good, going to a good institute, let me fund him 60 or 70 lakhs of education, despite of his parents not having that sufficient income to fulfill or to repay the EMI. So that's where a customized product from Avance or a student financing comes into picture, where a family background or family economic background doesn't come as a hurdle for his or her higher academic aspiration. So Damini, I have traveled abroad several times, but I'm sure there's a huge difference between traveling there for holiday and living a student life. So why don't you share your experience about the cultural differences one can face there? How do you adjust? How do you manage? How you navigate things there?
So Rajesh, yes, it is definitely very different, from vacationing there versus, studying. So your first exposure to cultural differences would come right in the classroom. So let's say, for example, in our class, there were students from China, of course, majority, and then, Japan, Taiwan, Chile, Mexico, even some South American countries. So yeah, so I mean, when you work with such people, I mean, when you do group projects together, you study in the same classroom together, so you learn a lot about their culture. Plus, you become very respectable to people who are different from you. So for example, these Chinese students particularly, they used to bring a voice recorder in the class, because they won't understand British accent, or sometimes they won't understand English when it's spoken so fast. So they would go back home, replay the audio, and then make notes. So that's a lot of hard work. But then initially there will be some students who are like making fun of it, they are not understanding. But then you start understanding. And when even in our group project there was this Japanese student, so we used to slow down the pace of English, because so that all of us are on the same page. So I think getting that respect for others' culture makes you actually a truly global citizen. You will be able to work around with people, at an international level. So that's why, I always suggest that studying abroad gives you that perspective, and everyone should actually go through that journey once in their lifetime.
So Damin, can you also share some tips for women aspiring to study abroad? How to manage and navigate things, the cultural differences, and how to go about it?
So I think having an open mind really helps. So see, when people from different nationalities study or work together, there definitely will be cultural differences. And even how two genders speak to each other or how they behave while talking is going to be different in the West versus in India. So I think women have to be prepared for it. So you can't be very adamant on your, style of things. The other thing is that, when they are in India, like, we as women, we are mostly led by our family or, fathers. But then when you're abroad, you would have to do everything by yourself. You would, have to manage your finances while doing a part-time job, dealing with the landlords, at the same time while managing, cooking and grocery shopping and everything. So I think people have to be prepared to come out of their shell. when they are planning to study abroad. So.
I must say, very helpful and insightful. So, Damini, we know you got a scholarship to study abroad, which covered your course fee and living expenses. But all these students don't get or manage to get the 100% scholarship. So, what's your advice for such students who don't get a scholarship but yet want to pursue their higher education dream?
So Rajesh, my advice to them would be don't abandon your dream, because I understand scholarship is not something everyone can get, but then they have alternate financing options like taking an education loan. So I think people should not push their plans further or cancel it altogether. They should take a loan or other forms of financing and go forward with it, because delaying is just means sometimes the cutoffs will go up, sometimes the political things will change and visa norms might change. So I think right now is the time that you should go ahead and pursue your education. So Rajesh, education loan repayment is one of the primary concerns for students and parents, and I'm sure you have seen many students repaying their loan back effectively. So what are your tips on repayment?
Yeah, it is important for student to pay the loan on time, because non-payment of loan EMIs on time can have adverse effect on their future credit scores and all. Many students doesn't realize this, but if they don't pay and their credit rating goes for a toss, then they will have issues if they go for any kind of a loan or maybe a job in future. So there are various ways to manage your repayment. So student can opt for probably paying some simple interest or partial interest during moratorium period, because moratorium period is provided for the ease of payment for students, because we don't want to burden them while they are studying. But if they can manage something like a partial payment or a simple interest, that can probably reduce the burden when the EMI starts. The other, they can also check on the EMI calculator on the websites of the various financials, wherein they can see, put in the loan amount, tenor, interest rate, and they can get an idea of what will be the EMI, and they can plan their finances accordingly. But to tell you the truth, though we give loans for 10 and 12 years and 15 years, but the majority of our customers normally close their loan, say maybe in 5.5 to 6 years.
Okay.
That very clearly suggests that once they complete the course, within 3.5 to 4 years, they earn and repay the entire loan amount. So if you plan it properly, I think there should not be any issue in repayment, but they should repay the loan on time, else negative impact will happen on their credit ratings. Very informative, Damini. I think our viewers will surely learn a lot of things out of this and can plan better.